Welcome, Denney.
Thank you very much.
It's interesting to listen back to your sound from 2015 to today, as there are a few changes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for us to now jump into that story, how it's transitioned, and to kind of get some insight into what went on in your mind during that process.
Yeah. So I'd been making records, putting records out since 2005. At the time, I was a resident at a club called Back to Basics in Leeds, which I've been there for years, and I was actually making a lot of acid house, which was kind of a lot of kind of stuff that I was playing at the time. I was really into hip house as well, so I was kind of using a lot of samples from kind of like hip hop kind of things, influences, and old Todd Terry records as well, with like rave stabs, you know what he used to do back in the day. And I made a record which was a B-side to a track on Hot Creations, which did pretty well. And then it got, this is a real kind of like highlights of it, it got licensed from there to Ministry. Now, due to some bad management, I had some bad management at the time, and we basically lost control of the record. So they took the record, they put extra vocal on it, got a load of remixes done, which I hated, and it actually went in the top 100 in the charts. And yeah, I mean, it had been all over Radio 1 this summer anyway, the version I did. And yeah, I lost all control of it and absolutely hated the record by the end of it. I can't even listen to it now. So what happened was, I'd been DJing around for quite a while anyway, and that propelled me, like literally in the space of 6 weeks. It kind of just, I had a full year's worth of bookings around the world, and it was just crazy. So I was getting heavy support from Radio 1 across the board. The track went to like #1 on the Radio 1 dance chart, and then I thought, I don't know, I just kind of guessed, I thought, right, this is the path that I need to go on. Not so much the version that got re-released from Ministry, and I did another hip house record which came out on FFRR the year after. And basically what happened was, I'm from a background where I was like playing a really underground club, you know, I'd go and play with Andrew Weatherall, or like we've got Ralph Lawson as resident, James Holroyd, we had Paul Wolford, and then I was kind of put me on this bigger stage, and I thought, right, I guess this is my avenue now. This is what I'm getting booked for. So, but it didn't feel right at the same time. I was like I was enjoying the gigs, and obviously, you know, you're getting to see the world and stuff. And then after about a year and a half, I remember I was playing a gig in Birmingham, and it was like, it must have been about 5,000-6,000 people in front of me, and I just realised that like no one's there, or no one's into what I'm doing, because I was still kind of playing some like underground acid house and stuff like that. I wasn't like DJing commercial records, and all it was just these kids just waiting for me to drop this record, which was the full vocal version that they'd heard on Radio 1. And it was at that moment where I was just like, I might as well have worked in a shop. Like, there was no soul whatsoever. This isn't anything that I'd kind of worked out or released or anything before. And then I went back and I was like, I can't do this. It was like not good for my own head. So then, what happened after that? So I went back, and then I made it apparent to my manager at the time, and it was like, right, this is quite a big U-turn to what we'd planned. So I took some time out, and then as it happened, the universe aligned. There was a legendary series called Global Underground, and I decided that I was going to use that, like just took 3 months off, mix this compilation, and I thought, I need to reset, basically push the reset button. Now, when you've got a diary full of gigs, and you're playing around the world, and you're getting really good money, and you get used to a lifestyle, and then you decide to just stop doing that and try and go back to your roots and do the path that you really feel genuinely strongly about and what you love, it becomes quite confusing for a promoter. So the gigs that I wanted to do wouldn't book me because I'd had this commercial success. And then because I was going to these other gigs where they thought I was going to play a full set like that record, which wasn't even my record in the end. I don't class it as my record. I was just playing the stuff that I always played. It just wasn't working. It was like I was kind of like out on my own. So it's taken quite a bit of time, and I only really feel like the last kind of 8 months to a year, things are really starting to move to where I want to be. Yeah, so that's it.
So a lot of people in the room here are looking to go full time as an artist.
Yeah.
And you had the pleasure from being that, but feeling like you didn't have a choice in the sound you wanted. What would you pass to them if they're wanting to be full time but also wanting to stick to their sound?
Okay, so firstly, I would say listen to yourself. Management, all that kind of thing. You can get very carried away with what other people think is best for your career. And no one knows you better than yourself. So I definitely, not get blindsided by that. And just make records for you. Don't try and make records to like, I want to make this tune to try and get on that label, or I want to make a sound that sounds like that. We all do that anyway. We all get inspired by records, but don't sit there and look at a label and go, right, that's what they're putting out. Because what you need to realize is a lot of labels are working 6 months to even a year ahead. So what they're signing will come out a year later. So they've already moved on from that sound that's coming out now, if there's a successful record. So I know I've spoken with Jamie at Hot Creations, Jamie Jones, many times, and when they have a big record, they just get so many demos of tracks that sound like that record, but obviously they've wanted to move on, and most labels have that kind of mentality. But yeah, just make, don't just make music that you want to make. Just go in the studio and jam and just do it, and don't try and force it, because whenever you try and force it, it won't work. It took me years to realize, don't do it. I had someone call me up and I sent them some records, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, you don't make this music, you don't play this music. And it really kind of struck with me. And what they said to me was, no one's going to play this music in 10 years. So, when as a DJ you want to go crate digging, I play records from 10, 20, even 30 years ago. And you just need to look at it as a timeless piece of music. And if it pops, great. Like I said, I made it as a B-side, and it just kind of took a life of its own. But just be true to you, because if you're just doing something for the money, it's never going to... There's nothing. You could go and do anything for that. Do you know what I mean? It's like the whole point of what we do is it's a creative process. We do it because we love it. I'd been practicing in my bedroom from 13 and DJing out since I was 17. So it's do it for the love. Otherwise, it's just a really expensive hobby.
Because you started off with piano and saxophone, wasn't it? And then you transitioned.
I did, yeah. When I was a kid. So I grew up in a really musical household. My dad was a jazz drummer. So I grew up on the likes of Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, that kind of thing. So he really, he told me to never get a real job. He was like, for God's sake, just do what, just enjoy your life. So that's kind of another thing. I mean, yeah, I know. Some people are like, oh, why did you do it? And I was like, because I just didn't, it wasn't making me happy. If it's not making me happy, then I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing. If I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, then I'm not putting 100% into it. And that's not fair on the people that are paying to come and see you. So, yeah.
So now when you're finishing music, so say, for example, the Global Underground kind of like compilation and album, you've gone from this point of being a commercial success, having everyone from local people to dance music centric people knowing your sound, knowing you, to now wanting to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Did Global Underground know that, and was that like a partnership in the agreement? Or
no, it wasn't, because the thing with it was obviously I've come from like I say, back to basics, and I had a bit of history before. Like I'd released a lot of records before that record, so a lot of people knew where I'd come from. So the thing that was weird that was the fact that I'd put that record out, it wasn't really what I was about. Do you know what I mean? The original was very much a track that sounded, it had a place in time. Like, I don't think the record sounds low frequency. I'm on about does not sound good now. It sounds dated. It's not a record. Like I said, I can particularly listen to. I'll never ever play it again. But yeah, they knew me from the years before, and I'd actually started putting records out after that, so that there was a bit of time. It wasn't just straight away the Global Underground. I'd actually put records out like on Crosstown Rebels and that were a lot more like techno, lenient to more techno. Yeah, so I think I'd done Poker Flat as well. So yeah, they were more underground, more the lane that I wanted to be in, and then yeah, it just kind of all aligned. But yeah, it really got kind of tough. Like, obviously my agent, my managers didn't know what to do. Like, I left my management, I left that agent, back managing myself now. But I think that's another thing is, you know, a lot of people don't need managers. You don't need a manager unless you absolutely can't. You know, for instance, Camel Fat, who were from here, they've just got a manager like about 6 weeks ago, I think, 2 months ago. So they managed to get all the way to where they are now without a manager. So yeah, I don't think some people do, but I personally don't think if you're an up-and-coming DJ, you don't need to be paying 20% to a manager when you can, you know, just learn the ropes yourself.
And that way you do have control. You have that freedom.
100%. And you're not being talked out of things that, you know, I was being talked out of ideas and collabs and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, it doesn't look right. I just want to make music, do you know what I mean? It's like, I do this because I love making music. I don't want to sit there because there's a strategy, right? If you do that with him and you do that with him, then we get there, and then we get, you know, I don't know, maybe that's just me being stubborn.
Do you think there's much of that in the industry at the moment, with dance music now being a commercial industry? There's people who, years ago, you'll watch the film and want to become actor. Now people want to become a world-famous DJ. And do you think there's this very being strategic behind making music? I think,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, everywhere you go now. I saw a video of one of the in-betweeners as a DJ now.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So I saw a video the other day, and it's like, you know, it's very easy to be a DJ now. A lot of the technology DJs for you. So you just, you know, have to stand there. There's a certain hotel heiress that I won't mention the name, you know, that's kind of, she's pulling in $1 million a gig apparently now, and she's got some guy bent underneath the table mixing for her. So yeah, I mean, there's this kind of big light, especially with the whole EDM, big stage commercial thing. But I don't really class that as DJing. You know, I look at, like I say, your Andrew Weatheralls, Derek Carters, people like that, they're DJs to me. So yeah.
Sound. So everyone in this room almost are music makers, and you've had the experience of releasing a record and it not going how you say intended. Did you initially love that release when you put it out?
Absolutely. Yeah, when I made my version, I did. Well, I just liked it. Do you know what I mean? It's like I make a lot of music, and then with that record, I made it in about 6 hours. Sent it to Jamie, and then he emailed me back in like about 4 hours, and then it was signed. And, you know, it was something that I just did off the cuff. It was a B-side to this other track. And yeah, it just kind of took a life of its own. But like I say, if I could do it again, or if I could give myself the advice, I would never, ever have given it to the major. And I certainly would have kept control. I mean, I first heard a remix on Radio 1. I was like, around my manager role, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I can't stand it. So we had to pull that remix. You know, I lost all artistic control on that record.
And how would you control that? And out of curiosity, if you were to go back, would you ask particular questions to ministry, or what would you do?
If I went back, I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't have let them do it. But yeah, I would. You know, I certainly would have had a management team that I know were keeping checks on these things.
Sound. So I think it'd be interesting while we're here just to jump into your music today as technology changes with music production. What What's really taken your love at the moment with making music? Any technology, any synths?
I'm just basically doing what I always do. I use Cubase, and yeah, I kind of I had some hardware. I got rid of that because I just use a lot of it in the box now. It's just the way that I kind of work. Constantly looking for new sounds and things like that. Always, constantly getting inspired. I think that's the beauty of making music, is you never stop learning. But what I did for me when I did the Global Underground thing was I grew up on that series, and I went back through my old vinyl collection. So I kind of went back, found my inspiration from where I was back then, and then just kind of utilized that. And since I've done that, like the amount of music, everything I've been making is just getting signed straight away. And, I'm just 100% happy with the music. I'm obviously not playing as many big festival stages and not getting as much Radio 1 or commercial success, but I'm kind of happy with what I'm doing at the minute.
That's special, and that's such a great place to be in, especially in the underground world, to have finally found your feet.
Yeah, and do you know what? And I'm not like, when I say the underground world, people look at me and they're like, I'm not like a Ricardo Villalobos or something like that. I'm still not uber, 11-minute final record underground. I've never been that kind of DJ. I've always been a bit more, I suppose I kind of say who would I be near? I said someone like Leo and Bushwhacker, because I play kind of across the board. But yeah, it's just literally making. Don't listen to people. Genuinely, you know yourself better than anyone, and just make music from the heart. And a good example is someone like Kerry Chandler. Kerry Chandler was huge in the 90s, then he disappeared for years, and now he's, a few years ago he had a massive resurgence. Now he's resident at Circle Loco in Ibiza, smashing it all over the world. It will come back round. If you genuinely love what you're doing and you put 100% into that, then you will have, I truly believe you'll have your moment if you stick with it.
Sound. And I think that's such a great piece of advice to take, because I've always heard that only make music that makes you happy, but when you start obviously creating music all the time and you want to progress your artist career, you could be making the wrong move. So it's always important to, one, make music you love, make music you're happy with.
100%.
But also to have a circle of people that you trust.
Yeah, it's surround yourself. When stuff's going well, you will be amazed how many people are there wanting a piece of it. There's the amount of money I paid out to people looking at that, and now I don't have hardly, apart from a few, I don't have them around me now, but I'm doing what I'm happy with, do you know what I mean? So it's very easy to get blindsided, and it can literally happen overnight, which happens to a lot of people now. They have one record and then it's gone, Surround yourself by good people, don't get carried away with the partying, and just genuinely love what you do.
That's special, that's special. So we've got time for one or two questions from the crowd. You've got your chance to ask Denney any questions, whether production, industry, getting signed. Put your hand up if you would like to ask a question, and I'll pass you the mic.
At what stage, when the bookings start coming in, do you think it's time to get an agent on board and kind of pass that on?
To be honest with you, most agents will be scouring, so if they see you or think they can do something, you'll probably start getting hit up by agents. The same with managers as well. Just concentrate on, try and get on some big labels. Like, that is one thing I would say. You can release I know people that have released for 20 years on just smaller labels, and they're just still sat doing an office job in a call center. Like, really try and aim for one or two bigger or established labels, because that's what gets, someone in Australia is going to be looking at that. That's what I'd say, because they should approach you.
I know you've already been on some huge labels, but are there any more out there that you'd see as like a dream label that you'd really want to be on?
That's a good question. I'd really like to do something on Last Night on Earth for Sasha, and I'm currently working on something for Bedrock at the minute, which is just a box. Basically what I'm doing now is I'm just ticking personal goals, and then if something connects, that's it. I think that's the best way to do. Just tick your personal goals, because if at the end of the day, if you look back on it, it's like, okay, well, I'm glad I released on there. I'm glad I released on there. Yeah, I've kind of released on most of the ones I think I want to, but yeah, I'd like to do something on those.